Hello, dear book dragons. It's May already, several days into May, and I finally have time to make a video. And before I start talking about the books I read in April, I want to show you this really nice little thing that I bought for all my bookmarks. And it has like a little cross in between there, so which means they're kind of stuck, but it's kind of good. And I also have some pencils in. I've been looking for a nice box to have them in, and finally I found one. So I'm very happy with that, because before they were just lying around and I had to look. I have so many, I was like, I don't have any, but I have so many. Anyway, I read 10 books in April, so it was very good for me. Usually I read around 8. And well, some of them are quite thin, so that's why. And I haven't done a lot of drawings in my book diary, but I have made some really short, really small ones. And I found some really nice, what's it called in English? Little sticky pictures to put inside. And I'm so sad I only bought one, because when I went back to the bookshop to buy more, they were already gone. I think it was at the bookshop. I'm not sure. So yeah, that's and I haven't done any drawings on the other side. I was thinking about making a little tower for thorn hedge, but I haven't. So let's start with the first book, and that is Somewhere. Oh no, I want to have my. I'll just put it here. Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune, and this is like a second book after The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I really loved. I've read it twice. And did I read it before this? No, I didn't. I thought I did. Huh. Well, I have read it twice anyway. And yeah, I thought this was as cozy and sweet as the first book. I think I still like the first book a bit better, because this is kind of similar, but it's also a bit darker, I would say. There are some dark tones in the first book, and now it becomes even more complicated than in the first book. It's like the bad government against people who really want to help magical children, and we get to meet a new boy in this book. And I really like the characters in this book. These magical children, they're hilarious. They're wonderful and so cute. And the magical man who takes care of them, Arthur Parnassus, is wonderful. And Linus Baker, who in the first book came to this lovely place, this lovely island, to investigate, is now. Oh, if you haven't read the first book, I shouldn't say. Well, you get to meet them again. It was great. I gave it a 4.8 stars. And then I read a duology that has been standing in my bookshelf for maybe 2 years, and I was like, now I should read something that's been waiting for me, and that's not just reading new books. And that is A Magic Steeped in Poison and A Venom Dark and Sweet. And I could say April has been a tea month. I've read a lot of tea books. And this is about magical tea. It's about a girl, Ning. This is kind of a Chinese inspired fantasy world, and she has been taught by her mother to use tea in a magical way. she wasn't supposed to be her apprentice. It was supposed to be her sister. But there's some bad tea out there. Her mother and her sister was got this tea. Her mother died and her sister got really sick, so she's the only one left except their father, who is a doctor, and he wants her to follow him. So it's a lot about family, but it's mostly a very adventurous book about a magical book. It's so interesting to read about these different teas and how you can use the tea to make different things happen. I really like the explanations. It's a really good magical system. It is, of course, not of course, but I think you can guess. It's like a young adult fantasy, and there is a lot of intrigues. There is some love, and I gave it 4.5 stars. What I missed was a map. I think a fantasy book where you travel around a lot, there should be maps, and there are no maps in these books. So that was a minus for me. I mean, there's no map in Somewhere Beyond the Sea, but it doesn't really matter because you only are at 2 different places. You don't really need a map then. But if you live in a magical world where there's a lot of traveling, it's nice to see, oh, where is that place and where's that place. Anyway, so that was those 2. Yeah, they're really epic, I would say. And I thought it was a good ending as well. And oh, they're not in order. I thought I had them in order. Then I read Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher, which is the first of 4 books. I read the first 2 in April, and I'm now in May reading the 4th. The 3rd is not very thick, so that was a fast read. And I really, really, really enjoyed this. I gave it 4.8 stars. It's really funny. It's romantic. It's spicy. Well, maybe not so spicy, but it's a lot of imagination. So the 2 adults. It's the same theme in every book. This is the paladin. The paladin is some kind of like a knight for a god, and there is this god who has died. We don't know why it died, but when the god died, his paladins went crazy, and so they're now working for another god, the White Rat, which you also meet in Swordheart by T. Kingfisher, which I have listened to like a year ago or something. So I recognize some things. I recognize the person. That was funny. And it's very easy to read. But in this book and in the second book, there are some really disgusting monsters, which I didn't really like reading about. It was a bit for me. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say, but this is a little bit too much descriptions how they are made sometimes. And in this first book, you meet Grace, who is a perfumer, and the paladin. I haven't written down his name. Stephen. You meet Stephen in this book, and there's a lot going on. There's a prince from another country visiting their city. There are some mysterious murders happening, and yeah, well, I guess that was the most important thing about this book. There's a lot of longing and things. Like I said, these paladins, their god has died, and they're now working for another god, working for the people. So the White Rat's priests, people helping them, because their paladins are strong knights. They fight. That's their thing. They're fighting. because their god has died, and maybe not only because of that, but they are so low self-esteem, which of course affects their love life. So there's a lot of, oh, I'm not worthy of her, a lot of that in all books, which can be a little bit repetitive, which is probably why I gave the second book a little bit less. Did I do that or not? Yes, I did. I gave this book 4.8 stars. I thought it was really, really good. Great. And the next one I gave 4.5 stars, which is Paladin Strength. I'm not sure it's less good, really. It's interesting when I usually give this numbers directly after I read them, and after a while I'm like, is that, I usually want to give them a bit higher later, or sometimes lower. And of course, in this new book, you meet new people. You meet Istvan, who's one of the paladins, and you meet Clara, who is a nun for a very, very special nunnery, where, yeah, I can say it because you understand it quite quickly in the book. They can turn into bears. And for some reason, all her friends from the nunnery has been kidnapped, and she's the only one left because she was so sick. So she managed to make the people kidnapping them just leave her to die. And now she's better, and she meets Istvan in this very special place. Can't really explain it. But so the whole book is about hunting after the nuns for her, and for him it's to find the murderers from the first book, or the monsters from the first book, I would say. The monsters are murders. And oh yes, the thing is why I gave it a little bit less is because I thought the love explanations, the love story came too late in the book. It was so much longing, and it was just towards the end they actually realized I am in love with you. That annoyed me. But it was also good. It was very adventurous, and also disgusting with these monsters, clay people. Yeah, but I really recommend them. And as I said, I read the third, and we're now reading the fourth in May, and I really, really enjoyed the third. It was more adventurous, I would say, in a way I liked better. And yeah, they're all different. And now in the fourth book, they're kind of talking about how did their god die and why. So I hope, I don't know if it is the last book. The fourth book was written 2023. So I won't know until I've finished it if it is a real end or a little bit more coming. I don't know. Yeah. Well, after finishing that, I read a very funny book. T is for Trouble. It's not very thick. It's one book I actually bought in April as well. I gave it 4 stars. It was fun. It was light. It's about this woman called April May. Very funny. She's a very strong woman who knows what she wants, which I really liked about. I really liked that. And it was no dithering. She's on her way to find her new home, and her car breaks down just outside the little village. And she goes there, finds this beautiful house, and it's like, there, I'm going to buy that house. I'm going to start my tea house there. So it's just, yes, that's my place, which I really liked. The really fun thing about this book is there is a ghost in in this house, which is a French chef, and he's just wonderful. She doesn't really want to believe that he is a ghost. She wants to think that he is some hallucination in her head. So she goes to the doctor to check it up. Even she actually doesn't talk to the chef, and he teaches her how to cook. She still thinks it's a hallucination, which is pretty funny. A bit crazy. And as Tears for Trouble is not just funny, cute things going on in this book. There is also a murder story. There is a murder, and I didn't manage to get who it was, which I think that was really well. I mean, it's not the most well-written book in history. Something was like, huh? How did she do that? But she does know tea. She exceptionally well described how to make different teas. So I learned a lot, I must say, about tea. And she very quickly gets friends, and very quickly gets enemies, and things happen very quickly all the time. So it's more a book about things that are happening than actually learning about the people in the book. So the people are not very fleshed out. You get to know her a bit during the book. You get to know a little bit more why she's left her old life, but not so much like it. And this is a series, I think, of, I don't know, 8 books or something. And today I ordered 3 more of these books because they are very entertaining. And today, just before I started filming, I got a message that I now can go and fetch them. So I will be reading them in May. And there's actually no romance. I mean, there's thoughts about romance, but it doesn't happen anything. So I guess that will probably happen later books. But it was kind of refreshing also that it wasn't. Yeah, if you like a light murder story and you're really into tea, I would say read this, and you can read it quickly. And then I read an even thinner book, which is my biggest complaint. It's too thin. The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon, which I saw about in the Darling Desi's video. I'm not sure. No, Tears for Trouble I saw in another video. But she was raving about this book, and I hadn't realized it's more like a novel. Which, I mean, you don't want a book you can finish in 2 hours. I don't. I want to be able to get to know the person, and it is a diary, so you do get to know Emma quite well, and she has really strange relations. This is set in 1883, and she moves to London from somewhere to try to get the house that she actually has inherited, but is occupied by like a half cousin or something. She's a woman, and she's not adult yet, so and this man is just horrible. But it is an entertaining diary. I mean, it is interesting for being about such horrible people. It is fun and lighthearted. And there are more volumes to follow. So, but I think it's a little bit much to pay 100 Swedish crowns to buy more books that I can read in 2 hours. So I won't be doing that, even if I do want to read them. So I give that 4 stars. And then I read a book that is thick. I was reading this for quite a long time. Blå längtan. It's a Swedish book, which means blue Blue Longing. And it's a strange book. I gave it 3.5 stars. The writing is kind of, it's not a very good book writing in the, how to explain it. Some parts are very like, this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happened, history-wise. So you do get to know a lot about what happens in Nigeria and in Sweden and in the world overall. But it's like in a chunky way. It's not woven into the history, into the story. And at the same time, it's a very emotional story. I cried several times. So it's like, it's so different. I read another book by her, which is also set. Well, it's very different from this because that's set in medieval times in Sweden, and this is set in 1950s in Nigeria and Sweden. And because it is set in Nigeria, you get to read about quite horrible things happening to young girls at a certain age. I think you know what I mean. And I just had to jump over those parts because it was too horrible to read. But of course, it's a very important topic to talk about. So she does take up a lot of important stuff, but in a like, I mean, it's not a history book. It's about two different girls from two different worlds. It's about Naomi from Nigeria and Pia from Sweden. And Naomi, you mostly get to follow Naomi, I would say. And she is kind of magical realism, this book, I would say. Because some things that happens is, it wouldn't happen for real. And I can't really explain the story because so many things going on, but it's a definitely a happy ending story. You know all the time what will going to happen. Or you know she will come to Sweden, and that Swedish doctor that delivered Pia to the world, who goes to Nigeria, will save Naomi because she was born with this gomspalt, it's called in Swedish, where your lip is a bit strange. So, and apparently if you have that condition, it's seems like you have the dark mark and it's dangerous. This kid is dangerous. So she is saved by this Swedish doctor and adopted by her, coming to Sweden. Before she was saved, she was saved twice. Thrice. She has been saved thrice. First by being, when she was born, saved by this medicine woman. And when she dies, there's this little boy who is there with his father, who is a doctor, who saves her and takes her to this children's home. And then she's saved again by this Swedish doctor. So she's always being saved. And Pia, the Swedish girl, her parents are just horrible drunkards. So her life is not very happy either. And they, during the book, they go in the same class, or the same age at school, but they don't become friends until something really horrible happens to Pia. And after that, they're best friends. And so in some ways, this book is really lovely. In some ways, it's not very well written. Which is confusing, but yeah, weird book. I would still recommend it if you want to know more about Nigeria in the 1950s and Sweden in the 1950s. A lot about how was changed in history and for women from that time. Anyway, I'll go on to my favorite book of the month, and that is Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. And this is also a novel, but this is from the library, so that doesn't matter. I don't have to pay for it. All the T. Kingfisher books I've been reading is from the library. I'm so happy them and that I can order them, so I don't have to run around from different libraries to try to find them. And this is such a delightful, delightful book. T. Kingfisher can write quite scary, gory kind of books, so I was a little bit afraid that it would be that, but it's not. It is a dark story, but it's not gory. Okay. And it's not about Sleeping Beauty. It's about toadling, and toadling is a, what would you call that? It says here, I think. Oh, the name is not here. But when she was stolen from her family by the fairies when she was born, so there's a special word for that. But you know, she was stolen from her parents and grew up and became toadling. She learned magic. She has learned how to change her appearance to look like a toad. And the story about Sleeping Beauty is very different than this. As I said, it's not about Sleeping Beauty, and it takes a while before you get to know that story. But you understand that it's not as we have learned it. It's Toadling's story and her guiding the tower. That's why it's called Thornhedge. You see the tower here. And yeah, it's just delightful, lovely. She's been guiding, she's been hiding and staying by this to keep the magic there for hundreds of years. And so she's been very lonely. She hasn't talked to a human for many, many years. And suddenly this knight comes. He's heard a story about Sleeping Beauty, and he's like determined to find the tower. And she's like, no, you have to go. But when he goes, she really misses him. She misses to have someone to talk to, and he's so nice. He really cares about her. So it's the cozy story about them, and then you also get to know what happens before what happened to the princess. I won't say more. I say read it if you want a quick, lovely, lovely book. Read Thornhedge. And the last book I read from the month is also a tea book, and that is the third book, Tea You at the Altar by Rebecca Thorne. The third book in a series. I thought this was the last, but it's not. There is a fourth one coming. And this was really fun. I gave it 4.2 stars. And look at how pretty it is. Unfortunately, where I'm lying now, is there a map? Yes, this book actually had a map, even if it's very simple. But finally, there is a map. I'm a firm believer of maps in fantasy books. In the second book, there was not very much tea drinking. There was mostly wine. But now in this book, we're back to tea drinking, which makes me very happy. And in this book, it's like mostly about their wedding and their plans to take down the evil queen. And it was delightful. Very adventurous. And also quite silly. I'm a little bit sick of how she always explains how they're crossing their eyes and they're making funny jokes all the time. This is about Chiante, who is the mage of Aegis, and Rhaena, who used to be the queen's god. And Chiante is always, all the time, making funny word jokes. All the time. It becomes a little bit too much, unfortunately. Otherwise, I really love this book. It's a lot of eye rolling, and yeah, it just feels a little bit juvenile when it's always these picking fun of things all the time. Otherwise, it's really good. I give it 4.2 stars. Yeah. I also bought this now in April. I started reading it almost immediately. I got it. So those were the books I read in April, and I'll see you later about the books I read in May. Have a good